Today's episode is all about the Broncos running back room, so I want to get your opinion on this question. Will the Broncos have a 1,000-yard rusher? They were one of just a few teams last year that don't have a 1,000-yard rusher or receiver. So let me know if that will end this year in the rushing department down below. It's time to crack the Broncos running back enigma because this entire offseason has been spent chattering about could Jaleel McLaughlin take over from Javonte Williams as the number one back? Who's going to be this team's leading rusher? And I figured, you know what? In the middle of July, there's nothing else pressing we have to attend to today. Why not try and solve this case as to what's going to be the Broncos running back room this year? As it is currently constructed, you've got Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin entering his second season, and then Samaje Perine on the final year of his 2-year contract. Rookie Audric Estime, then you've got a couple of former UDFAs, and then finally fullback Michael Burton, who is going to be on the 53-man roster with a job and with a role in mind, which is to be a fullback. And to me, that signals that Sean Payton's going to want to run the football a lot this upcoming season. Overall, the ground game has to improve from last year. And this is not an issue of the offensive line, in my opinion. Is it the best offensive line in football? No, it isn't. But you know what? You don't need to have an Avengers team up front to still be a good rushing team. A lot of it just comes down to effort and physicality. And the Broncos need to be better up front, okay, in terms of running the ball. Last year, they ranked 18th in carries. They were 18th in yards. Yards per carry, 21st. Touchdowns, 28th. But worst of all, they were horrendous in the red zone at rushing the football. Courtland Sutton had 10 touchdowns last year because at times in the red zone it felt like we're better off just chucking it up to 14 than actually running it from the 3-yard line. That's not sustainable. That's just not something you can count on every single year that Courtland Sutton's going to come down with these 50-50 balls in the red zone. The Broncos know this, and they have to improve inside the 10-yard line at rushing the football. But more than just getting better at rushing the football, the ground game has to improve because they need to support Bo Nix. And when you think about rookie quarterbacks, you don't have to be a football savant to know you've got a young, inexperienced rookie player at the most important position in all of professional sports. Finding ways to help that person out is only in your best interest. And maybe the best way to do that is to give him a good ground game to lean on. So that if things are a little bit choppy through the air and he doesn't have his best stuff that day and they're going up against a really good pass defense, being able to go, you know what? We've got a great ground game that can turn this 3rd and 5 into a first down. We can keep this drive alive by going to our running backs. The Broncos need to support Bo Nix because Sean Payton made a big gamble on Bo Nix. He got ownership to sign off on $39 million in cash to go to Russell Wilson to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. He did that because he felt like he could find a better opportunity in Bo Nix to get more wins this season. And if they're going to get more wins this year, it's not going to be because Bo Nix throws for 5,000 yards in his rookie season. It's because they're going to have a good balanced offense, and there needs to be a better ground game. So now the puzzle presents itself as to what is this ground game going to look like this year, and who's going to be the leading rusher of this team? Who's ultimately going to be this team's number one running back when they need to convert a key 3rd down in the 4th quarter to put this game away? Who's getting the rock? First candidate is Javonte Williams. He's been their number 1 running back for 2 years. Unfortunately missed a lot of the 2022 season due to a knee injury, as we all know by now. 2nd-round draft pick out of UNC back in 2021. Split carries with Melvin Gordon, nearly to a 50-50 T that season. And then this past year, made a remarkable recovery, especially in the speed side of how quickly he was able to return to the field, but did not have his best stuff. Averaged 3.6 yards a carry, 774 yards off of 217 carries. Now, Sean Payton did talk about Javonte Williams going into his final year of that rookie contract, and he had this to add, which I really want to reinforce. Payton said, I think historically speaking, when you talk to the experts, they say that the complete heal finishes at 2 years. So yes, Javonte Williams did come back for all of last year after missing time with that brutal knee injury suffered at the Raiders game in October of 2022. But I am not writing off Javonte Williams for two main reasons. One, he is entering a contract year. And I don't really know what it is, but for one reason or another, when players are entering a contract year, especially at the running back position, when they know it's tough to get more than just one good contract in free agency, they tend to just somehow present their best version of themselves. Like, just think about this past running back market. Like, DeAndre Swift, he's got 1 year left on his deal in Philly. What does he do? He rushes for over 1,000 yards for the first time in his NFL career. Saquon Barkley, back-to-back contract years. One time the Giants tagged him, the other time the Eagles paid him. What did he do in both those seasons when he had injuries the years prior? He put together awesome campaigns. So the contract year part, I don't have an exact science behind it. It's just, you believe it when you see it. And for me, I've seen it over and over again. And then we also add in the actual medical science side of he's 2 years removed from a major knee injury. I think he's going to be closer to that 2021 version of himself where he showed a lot of promise in his rookie year in a split role with Melvin Gordon. Now you get him 2 years removed from that injury. Again, I don't have, and usually I try to come in here with the best data or facts and stats to back up my points, and this one's more of a gut feeling. But I've just got a gut feeling that Javonte Williams, for those two reasons, is going to put together a strong season. Now, there is something to be said about Jaleel McLaughlin, the UDFA last year out of Youngstown State, who is the NCAA all-time rushing leader in FBS or FCS, played a handful of seasons for Youngstown State, and then in his rookie year for the Broncos, made the 53-man roster, and then made himself available and onto the field, rushing for 410 yards, 1 touchdown. He was also a good receiving back for this team, 160 yards altogether. He was solid in the red zone. Altogether, Jaleel McLaughlin was a really good, versatile back that they could use at different spots on the field. I think we're going to see Jaleel McLaughlin improve to that RB2 job, but I'm not going to go as far as some other people are saying to say he's going to be this team's starting running back based off what we saw in the spring. Give credit where credit is due. Jaleel McLaughlin has been working his tail off. Sean Payton called him out by name as someone who is always in the building first when it opens up at 5 a.m. Like, there is a lot of roses and flowers that need to be given to Jaleel McLaughlin for working his ass off. But let's also remind ourselves that spring practices, they benefit the smaller, shiftier, quicker, faster players because there's no pads on. There's no ability for someone like a bowling ball like Javonte Williams to prove their worth because there's no defense to run over. There's no contact to be made. That's what Javonte Williams does so well, his ability to generate yards after contact. If there's no contact in spring practices, how is he supposed to show off? So I am not going to be a victim of, wow, Jaleel McLaughlin's looking awesome this spring. He's going to be the starting running back. Let's have that conversation when the pads come on. And if that carries over into then we can have that conversation then. But for now, I think it's premature. So I do think we'll see Jaleel McLaughlin improve, not just as a rusher, but also from a usage standpoint this upcoming season. But I'm not going to go all the way to say he'll be the team's number one running back. Now, who do you think will be the leading rusher this season? Javonte Williams or Jaleel McLaughlin? I think if both these guys are healthy for the entire season, I would say Javonte Williams will have more yards, but I think it's going to be more of like a 60-30-10 split between Williams, McLaughlin, and everyone else. Maybe it's like 55-30-15. But let me know who you think down below. Now, the next running back on the docket is Samaje Perine, who last year was an extremely valuable receiving back. How often did Russell Wilson just dump it off to him and Perine did the rest? He's also a really good pass protector, which I think sometimes fans become victims to only evaluating running backs based on how good they are for their fantasy team, when coaches don't give a shit about your fantasy team and they give a shit about keeping the quarterback healthy. And Samaje Perine did a really good job of making sure the quarterback was not taking unnecessary hits. So I'm not going to say Samaje Perine is gone, even if he is relegated to RB3 because of Jaleel McLaughlin's rise. I still think there is some really good value in Perine in the receiving department. and also in the pass protection game. So keep an eye on Perine. Sure, he's probably not going to have a ton of production, but I do think he'll have some really important snaps on the field. And then finally, there's the rookie running back, Audric Estime, who they drafted in day 3 out of Notre Dame. Sean Payton added this on Estime during the offseason, saying he was one of the highest graded backs after contact. He's a physical player. Man, he is a first and second down runner who I think is strong. First and second down runner. That's Javonte Williams' job, right? That's what you kind of lean on your number one back to do. First and 10, there's usually going to be a bit of a loaded, stacked box, right? Teams are kind of expecting to run on those early downs, so maybe a safety drips in, maybe it's an extra linebacker on the field, and you need a bruising back to be able to run over an extra defender or two. Now, if they think Estime is better in those situations, Javonte Williams is definitely in for a problem, because if that's not his duty, it's definitely not receiving. And he wasn't so great at the goal line, so where does he fit in? Now, we did not see anything from Estime during the spring. He outside of rookie minicamp, he suffered a knee injury. He got an arthroscopic knee surgery, which knocked him out for much of, or if not all of OTAs, and definitely all of minicamp. The expectation is he'll be ready to roll for training camp, but overall, I like him for the red zone this year. The stats that we just looked at, you saw the yards and then the yards after contact. Can we put those back on and actually read? I just want to revisit those because I kind of raced through it. But Estime last year for the Fighting Irish, he wasn't the fastest guy in college football, but having 1,300 yards and then having 892 of those yards come after contact, that's a bruising back. Now, we'll see if that's able to translate to the NFL when you're not running up against some smaller college defenders like he was at Notre Dame. But I do think that in time we'll see Estime kind of maybe grow into a bigger role. But for his rookie season, I'm going to pump the brakes on that, especially with already missing some time due to a knee injury. He's falling behind a little bit. And then we saw last year, what happened when Riley Moss missed some time. It really puts you behind the 8 ball. So I'm excited for him in the red zone. I do think he could have some touches at the goal line because he is so good at running over human beings. But I don't think we're going to see too large of a role for him in his rookie season. So I won't buy that stock. If we're really going to crack this puzzle once and for all, Javonte Williams, in my opinion, will be the lead back. But there's going to be a healthy rotation. I don't think there is a 1,000-yard rusher on this team. I think Javonte Williams can have a strong season, 900 yards, 5 touchdowns in a contract year, and that's something we'd probably all sign up for right now if that was put on the table. But I think you're going to see, like I said, a 60%, maybe 55% snap goes to Javonte Williams, 25% to 30% goes to Jaleel McLaughlin, and everything else goes to Samaje Perine or Audric Estime. But there will be a rotation. It's not going to be a workhorse situation, but I ultimately think Javonte Williams will be this team's number 1 running back. Now, before we get on out of here, time for another summer hot takes. It is 84 degrees today in Denver as a high. So we got a motel hot tub hot take for you guys, and that is, with the 4th of July in the rearview mirror, my official rankings for 4th of July grilling foods. Number 1, I'm going with cheeseburgers. You can make an argument for hot dogs because of how quickly it is to just start throwing them back. But for me, nothing beats a good cheeseburger. At number 2, I do have hot dogs. I actually have them ahead of ribs, which I do like ribs more than hot dogs in general. But when you're at a 4th of July, backyard barbecue pool party, you don't want to get your hands and your mouth all messy. You want to be able to grab something, take a bite of it, maybe take it into the pool with you. You can't do that with a rack of ribs, which I do love, but just not in that setting. And then finally, barbecue chicken. It's just never going to be the thing that I gravitate towards at the buffet inside. So for me, it finds itself in the number 4 spot. But cheeseburgers, that's always going to be the first thing my hand leans towards if there's an option of a handful of barbecue meats, and then hot dogs, ribs, and then chicken barbecue, or barbecue chicken. All right, that will do it for us on today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see everyone later.